Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, April 24th. We're on the Asian account. So let's see, we have 4 games we need to win for 100 gold. We need to play 30 rogue class cards. And let's re-roll this warlock class cards. Rogue and now shaman overload cards. So we've got a decent amount of stuff. We may actually run out of news before we run out of everything else. First things first, let's get this Tavern Brawl done. And while that's loading, we have a GameIndustry.biz article here. A Chinese streaming platform called DouYu files for a $500 million IPO. It is a Tencent backed, now arguably basically everything is Tencent backed, including Twitch, but I think, yeah, Tencent owns some of Twitch. It's a Tencent-backed Twitch rival, which could be one of the largest Chinese flotations in the US so far this year. Flotation, I guess, being another phrase for initial public offering. It also could be a pump and dump. Like any IPO could be a pump and dump in which the underlying technology and the underlying business model isn't actually there, and there's just a hope that investors will put their money in it so that the board can pay themselves large bonuses and then leave the company with a golden parachute. That's all speculation, certainly. I'm still kind of in this weird perspective. Let's see. Like, I'm still of the opinion that I'm not even sure I believe that Twitch is yet a successful platform, and that Twitch is a platform that's actually helpful for streamers in particular. I did hear a story, it's not super about video games, but it seems like there's more of a 4chan style coordinated effort to find and report people who are body painting on Twitch for violating the guidelines, if they are in fact violating guidelines. There certainly is an argument to be made that if you're trying to have a video game streaming site, it is unfair completely for it also to have the side section that is super popular and getting a bunch of money, where women are basically just stripping in reverse. And I think that is a fair enough descriptor of what's happening.
That's the pirate's code.
Let's see. I could shadow step a couple of minions.
Aye, aye.
If I wanted to. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Prototype for a lost Tom and Jerry Super NES game is now available for download. I wouldn't be surprised if it is taken down from download pretty quickly. This would be just a prototype game that probably does not have a beginning and an end, beginning to end content. So I imagine at a certain point it's just gonna bug out and be missing content. Questionable how much fun a lot of the old like cartoon tie-in games really are. Certainly that was something I was thinking about when I was looking at old games, as like, are these old Mickey Mouse games that probably weren't that good really worth it, or are they actually just interesting? I guess I can now have 4 of those.
Here we go.
Just gonna hit that. Like, it's one thing to say to a newer generation, you should play Super Mario Brothers because that's historically important. But to say to a younger generation of gamers, you should go play like Mickey Mouse's Castle, the Game Boy version, or a Tom and Jerry game, when they don't even know, a new generation probably doesn't even know what Tom and Jerry is nowadays.
How long can this go on?
Let's see.
Here we go.
So yeah, I don't know if a younger generation would even be willing to watch the old cartoons, in kind of the same way that my generation probably wouldn't have been willing to watch old black and white silent movies. Like I know I personally saw a few Betty Boop cartoons that were a generation at least before my time, but I was hardly obsessed with watching every single one I could find, and certainly in my heyday, finding things was really a lot more difficult.
How long can this go on? How long can this go
This guy's
on?
toast.
Let's see.
Here we go.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Osiris. Looks like it is a low-effort asset flip first-person shooter game. You could potentially be tricked into thinking that this was a good first-person shooter game if you're not careful. But oddly, it's left-handed again. Just as I was watching this video, though, it kind of became more and more obvious that this is not done well. It's early access and it's $3.99, which that inherently also tells you that this is going to be a low effort game. This is not a AAA game, or even a AA game. I'm confused quite often as to why people even try to make a first-person shooter game on a budget. It's just never gonna work. Not unless you can do a drastically different art style. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called 8 Dragons, which looks like it's a beat-em-up game. It's a little pixely, probably a little bit more pixely than I would prefer. But yeah,
This guy's toast.
this is something that's really going to come down to reviews, though, because this might be 5 minutes of gameplay with the same repeated backgrounds over and over again, or this might be a large, a much longer, better game. One thing that does seem to be standing out as I'm looking at the video here is that it seems like there's a decent split between the genders here. You have women beating up women, men beating up women, women beating up men, men beating up men. So, interesting diversity. Early access, this game is for $10.79 discounted. I think this definitely deserves a follow. Like, people might like it, people might hate it.
Warriors of the frozen wastes.
Hey, lights out.
Oh man, I could have won right then. I could have just equipped a weapon and done one more damage. Alright, next we have a game on Steam called Cybergun, which looks like it's a platforming game, asset flip with a gun that can be used to either shoot things or grapple.
I wonder.
Like, this neon look and this platforming gameplay tells me this is probably not a very interesting game. It's $1.19 discounted. That's the third nail in the coffin as far as I'm concerned. So that's not going to the wish list or the follow list. I might be near the end, frankly, and we kind of just started the stream. So I don't know how this is all going to break down, because I may not have that much more news to talk about. Okay, so we need to play rogue cards. I'm looking for gold and legendaries on the European account as far as classic card packs, and I didn't get probably any of that. And disenchant all 5 of those cards, and it seems like we've got a lot of cards that are marked as new that really shouldn't be marked as new. Let's see if we can convince the collection software. I really thought that the solo player expansion was going to happen yesterday, and it didn't happen yesterday. It might happen tomorrow. If it does happen tomorrow, there is a possibility that I'm gonna cover it rather late in the evening. This whole system's still just a mess. We've seen all these cards. We've had all of these cards for a long time. Let's just hover over each card. See if it marks any of them as seen. See, even right now, it says there's one when there shouldn't be. I'm wondering if the Hearthstone database is just getting worse and worse and just needs some major cleanup. Like, at some point, am I gonna log into my Hearthstone account and see that they're actually, it's just corrupted completely? That might be the case. I might as well play ranked, since I'm at rank 20 anyways. We've got a game here on Steam called Breaking Bunny. It's a way too zoomed in, low effort MS Paint platformer. For 99 cents new discount. English and German. There's no way this game should be really even on Steam. But I guess there's really no reason to stop people from pursuing their dream, regardless of how diluted they are. There should be like a 20-minute tutorial, I think. This might have been a good idea for YouTube and Twitch also. Is like, you have to watch this 20-minute video explaining how the process will work, and then you have to answer questions to prove that you watched the video and you understand what it's saying. And there's no way to cheat on the questions because the answers are going to be randomized and put in different positions and such. But yeah, if you stopped a lot of people from doing Steam Direct just because they would be too lazy to watch a 20-minute video, if they're too lazy to go through the training, and then the training would be very helpful also for people that think they might be able to make some money on Steam when really they won't. Like a little bit of education of your sellers wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm sure several conversations has to happen before you can get your product on the shelves of Walmart. I think a similar kind of process would be a good idea. The same is true for YouTube. If you had to watch a 20-minute video and answer questions, which they do have videos like that, they just don't force anybody to actually watch them. But if they actually did force you to watch them first, then that would probably stop a lot of people from putting videos that are worthless onto YouTube. Videos that are potentially damaging or dangerous or illegal, at the very least. Next we have a game on Steam called Reactivated, which seems to be a dark screenshot syndrome, some kind of simulation game. It seems like it's just random things all over the screen. I cannot see any real gameplay. I was watching the trailer. Yeah, I cannot figure out what this is supposed to be. It's so dark. It's $4.24, whatever it is, discounted. And since I have no clue about it, and since it's given off such a terrible first appearance, I'll just close that tab and never think about it again. Do we want to do this? I think maybe. Let's go ahead and kill this. Next, we have a game on Steam called Blackout, which is already rated negatively. This seems to be a dark screenshot horror game, but I wouldn't be surprised if this literally just does not run. Like, I'm not seeing anything on these screens, just black, 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 black. It's like... So... This is $19.99, no discount. That's really expensive. Very disappointing. In first impressions, the graphics appear to be very good, and I enjoyed the details of the house. However, after a while, I realized that the interactive items were useless as the game went on. The glitch became more and more to the point it became unplayable. There also seems to be no story behind the game. Next review says the game was terrible, the automation is very bad, the voice acting is very bad, blah blah blah. Okay. So yeah, people are not having it. And deal this here, and there, and in return. So yes, of course, that's not something that is going to make it to the fall list. Next, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Tencent raises the minimum age for the digital lock to 16. The new measure will be trialed in upcoming games, limiting gamers aged 15 and under to 2 hours a day. This is part of Tencent's implemented did rules on top of China's government rules, raising the minimum age. 2 hours a day playing a lot of games is nowhere near enough. Now, arguably, I could certainly see that maybe these kids are supposed to be in school and they're supposed to be doing other things. But I can imagine in a large metropolitan area in China, you could easily be on a bus for 2 hours a day or more. Like, an hour and 15 minutes to get from your house to school, an hour and 15 minutes to get from your school to the house, and yeah, again, that really just feels like a case of that should be something the parents can implement, not something that is just by default forced upon all kids in China, regardless. And it's a useless system anyways, because immediately people have been making fake IDs and stealing IDs to get around it. So you're pushing kids to commit larger crimes simply so they can play video games, and that's ridiculous. It's kind of like well, it's kind of like the drug war in a lot of ways, where smoking marijuana really does not harm anybody except for arguably the person smoking it and maybe anyone around them that gets secondhand high. And yet the drug war in the United States constantly added and continues to add more and more criminal penalties for doing something so that is rather innocuous. It really is the if China outlaws games, then then all game players in China will become outlaws. So I'm glad to see that is not following. No other company is following suit outside of China with a digital lock. Although certain parental controls certainly would be appreciated. Like, I could see the iOS store and the Apple store saying, hey, if you want to limit the amount of gameplay to 2 hours, that would be fine. But I don't think they would mandate that. And the thing too is that if Apple and Google implemented mandatory child locks on all the games played on cell phones, it would not buy them a single bit of grace with the US government or any other government around the world. It wouldn't be like, oh, we see that you're being responsible now, we're going to stop investigating you and pressuring you to take more action. No way. They would still get more or the same amount of pressure regardless. Alright. Let's start with the simplistic question. Is this explosive trap? Yes. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. Doraemon Story of Seasons is coming to PC. That'll be slightly interesting. Doraemon being a highly popular kids anime in Japan, like really young kids. So there is a good chance, since it's from Bandai Namco, it won't be much of a game and it won't be that good. It would be also it would also be kind of hard for me to cover such a young kid game. I know I've covered the Lego games before, and that certainly were more kid-focused games, but I'm not sure Doraemon Story of Seasons really is gonna catch my attention. But I would cover it, most definitely. Like, there's very few Doraemon games that come to the West, and I don't think there are too many Doraemon games in the first place. Even the Doraemon animes, I don't think are super easy to find or move or purchase, because it is kind of that throwaway cartoon for kids series. It's kind of like also if you were going to try and buy every single Pokemon DVD, if it's not in a big collection and they're sold individually, it would not be worth the price of the DVD to purchase for most people. Whereas a streaming service makes that a much more interesting concept, at least, of streaming the Pokemon series. Back when I was collecting anime DVDs, that was certainly always the bane of existences, is if you've got something that just has been going on forever and ever and ever, you're going to have these huge number of DVD cases, and this would have been when it was full-size DVD cases instead of like thin DVD cases. So you could easily have 2 or 3 shelves of something with a series like Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. It's just because there's so much of it that was made and came out. Just play this. Alright, so I'm gonna hit this. And then I'm gonna hit this. And this. And then return. Next we have a game on Steam called Fantasy Smith VR, which looks like a game that really wouldn't benefit too much from being in VR. I wouldn't mind a game where you were doing blacksmithing. It is dangerously close to a game where you're doing somebody's job, but I could argue that blacksmithing, ironsmithing, and making weapons and swords in particular is more of a hobby than a real job. This Fantasy Smith VR is $11.69 discounted, but requires VR. It's English and Chinese. With the artistic style that it has, though, it feels like you'd just be doing a bunch of mini games, just swinging the hammer a few times and then a sword would just magically appear. Whereas if I was going to do a game or a VR experience of blacksmithing, I want it to be like Forged in Fire, the TV show, where you're actually learning the techniques, at least visually. Maybe you're not actually on a competent level to know what you're doing in many cases, or you're not getting that physical feel that you would have from actually having a hammer in your hand.
You asked for it.
And the physical feel of the heat from the furnace exhausting you. Almost certainly, if I was to try to take on actual blacksmithing, I'd find it so physically exhausting that I'd give up rather quickly. But I, from a distance, appreciate the art. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Broccoli and Tokyo Ghoul creator Sue Ishihara announces Jack Jian. I assume that's Jian and not Jean for the Switch. No idea what this is, though.
Greetings, friend.
Let's see. They're calling it a girls' opera game from the Tokyo Ghoul creator. I know a lot of people like the Tokyo Ghoul series, but I've tried to watch it a couple times and I never really could get into it. I think you probably have to watch it from the beginning and really get into the characters. Let's see. So I'm watching the trailer for this game, Jack Jian. Jack Jian. Jean. I'm seeing a bunch of guys and a bunch
The
of stage
future
lights,
is ours.
and a bunch of Japanese letters that are probably explaining the story to me a little bit more.
I don't have enough mana. It's hot.
Here there is no light.
Yeah, the trailer's really not showing me anything. So it's a simulation and rhythm game parts game is what it's described as. So it's kind of a music game. Half music, half visual novel, I would assume, is what the simulation really means. Next on Steam we have a game called Nova Life, which is clearly an asset flip, low effort Roblox clone that just on first look you can ignore. It's early access, English not supported, $9.99. It's a French only game. I feel like sometimes these asset flippers just pick random languages and say their game is in that language, just to see if maybe that would get them a few more sales.
Amazing.
What does this one do? Give your minions +1 attack.
Join me.
Yeah, we have like 2 more articles. Well, 1 more article. Well, no more articles. I'm on the Humble Bundle. I had a bunch of duplicate tabs. So let me look and see if there's any new Humble Bundles to mention. There's a Games Bundle, the More Board Games Bundle, which I guess we can show this off. Would be Ticket to Ride the First Journey, which I think I own. Gloom the Digital Edition, which is mixed reviewed, which is odd because I wanted to play that card game. A digital version. Love Letter is positive. Twilight Struggle is positive. Pandemic the board game, digital edition. These are all Steam games. Carcassonne, Carcassonne, Tiles and Tactics, and Inn and Cathedrals. I think I don't have the DLC Inn and Cathedrals. Ascension, the deck building game, Mystrium, and 3 different Mystrium games. And that's if you pay more than the average of $8.74. If you go up a little bit higher, you have Scythe and Pathfinder. I think I'll do a little bit of research here and probably either spend $1 or spend the average $8.74 and get the medium. I don't think going up another $4 for those couple of games probably is interesting enough to me. And let me see if there's another bundle that needs to be mentioned. There's a web development bundle that seems to be introduction into making web pages, and doesn't look like it's actually going to be very informative for an adult. It might be good for kids, but I don't think teaching kids HTMLs is particularly a high priority. The Square Enix Collective Bundle. Said Forgotten Anne. I think I already bought this, actually. So either I bought this or I didn't. I don't think I have this. I don't think I have this. I don't think I have this. I definitely have the Turing Test, which makes it a little bit more expensive. But then if I want the collector's edition of Forgotten Anne for $7.88, that wouldn't be too bad. In Black the Fall, Play $12 for Tokyo Dark and Children of Solstice. So that wouldn't be bad too. I'm not sure how much money I really want to spend though. In the next couple of months. I was kind of trying to reduce my Humble Bundle purchases, save a little bit of money for next big Steam sale, maybe save up for another video card, which may get pushed back. Yeah. So yeah, in particular, if you got the bundle and already had a copy of Forgotten Anne, I would very much appreciate being gifted that through Twitter direct message. And that just takes me back to the Twitter page, and I'm just going to scroll down my Twitter feed and see what other bits of news we can have. I think what I need to do is probably look at the timer and see how long we've been going. And let's see. Yeah, we've been going about 35 minutes, I would say. So we probably should try to go for an hour. And there's things to do here. Let's see. See, on this Wednesday, I doubt that there's going to be too much news. I think we're probably heading into a bit of a slump as far as video game news, and we will pick back up at E3. And in between now and E3, it's going to be pretty slow. The Choose Your Champion, you're almost out of time. And apparently the Choose Your Champions, you'll get one pack for free and one more free pack if you just watch the tournament for at least 4 hours, which I don't know if it's worth it to potentially pretend like you watched the tournament for 4 hours just to get a pack. I mean, it wouldn't be super hard just to watch it and then just start it playing and then leave the screen running, walk out of the room. Let's see. Yeah, and that looks like that's I'm barely had just a few new things that happened over this nearly 3 hours of streaming. 2 more days to kickstart Firmament from the creators of Myst.
Time runs out on me.
So Gematsu has an article here. Will A Wonderful World physical edition for PS4 and Switch has been delayed to July 2nd in North America. This is a visual novel. It's been delayed for anybody. Like, I know that game did look slightly interesting, but it being delayed certainly isn't going to matter. Next, there was a game on Steam, Insect Revolution VR, which looks like kind of a low-effort asset flip Earth Defense Force, which is saying something because Earth Defense Force is not really that great a quality game either. It requires VR and it's $4.99 undiscounted, so yeah, that's not making it to the fall list. Just slowly losing. I probably am gonna just have to play off screen because I'm gonna run out of things to say really quickly here. And I don't see a reason to stream or record videos where I'm just gonna be like sitting in total silence. Let's see. This.
Job's done.
I'm just trying to play all the cards. Next we have a game on Steam called Home Plate Baseball. Looks like a VR baseball game. It doesn't look terrible, it doesn't look great, but a VR baseball game is probably not terrible. It's $3.04, I believe, 21% off. That's suspiciously low in price for a VR game. So I'm gonna just assume that this does not work the way it looks like it works. Otherwise this should be a lot more expensive just because it's VR. Next we have a game called Adventure in King Carrie's Land, which is a MS Paint looking platforming game. It's $9.99 with no discount. So yeah. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Get a job. Sony PlayStation is hiring a senior manager for competitive gaming. This would be in San Mateo, California. Esports. Sony is apparently trying to get big into esports. Alright. So where are we here? We need... I played basically no row cards. And I need to play 6 more overload cards, which is happening slow. And I need to get 2 more victories. And there's 2 more stories here we can talk about. Super Mario Maker 2 launches on June 28th. A late June release. Which it's a little surprising that Super Mario Maker 2 is coming out relatively quickly since 1 came out. But I guess there was some underlying coding that needed to change there. And Gamma Sutra has this article. Overwatch lets players create custom modes with in-game scripting tools, which you could certainly invest in that. I assume Overwatch is just going strong. It's probably not losing a lot of its player base, but I doubt it's gaining much of its player base, gaining an increase to its player base anyways. So I kind of just think it is going to keep on going. Alright, so with that, I could try and stretch this out, but I think it will just be easier for my voice and for my own sanity to end this recording here, and this will just be a shorter episode. This was always a risk. Certainly we've gone about 46 minutes. It was always a risk. If I broke up things and didn't have enough news to talk about, then I'd just be done with things. It's not so much breaking up the episodes as it has to do with just I really don't care to stream myself purely playing Hearthstone anymore. And so yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. That's gonna be it for this recording. I'll get all of these done, or at least 2 of these done. I have to get at least 2 of these done today, and then come back on Friday and get the last one done, or the last 3. That's it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.